Have you ever felt forgotten by God? Have you ever prayed and prayed and prayed again, yet nothing changed? Maybe you're watching this today, with tears nobody sees, questions nobody can answer, and a heart that is tired of waiting. You keep asking, God, where are you? Do you hear me? Do you even see what I'm going through? Because if we're honest, God's silence can be painful, very painful, especially when you need Him the most, especially when life feels unfair, especially when you've done everything right. But listen carefully. What if God's silence doesn't mean He's absent? What if His silence means He's working? What if the thing you're calling a delay is actually divine preparation? And what if, right now, at this very moment, God is doing something behind the scenes that could change your life forever? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see your waiting season. The pain of waiting. Nobody likes waiting. Nobody wakes up excited to wait. We want answers now. We want blessings now. We want breakthroughs now. But life doesn't work that way, and neither does faith. Maybe you're waiting for healing. Maybe you're waiting for a relationship. Maybe you're waiting for a financial breakthrough. Maybe you're waiting for a door to open. Or maybe you're simply waiting for peace. The kind of peace you haven't felt in a long time, and every day feels the same. You wake up, you hope, you pray, you wait, then you sleep, and start all over again. Sound familiar? Many people are living that reality right now. Maybe you are too. And that's why waiting feels so heavy. Because you don't know when it will end. You don't know how long it will take. You don't know what God is doing. And uncertainty can be exhausting. The biggest lie. People believe, can I tell you something dangerous? One of the biggest lies people believe during difficult seasons is this: nothing is happening. Because they can't see results. They assume God isn't moving. Because they can't see answers. They assume God isn't listening. Because they can't see progress. They assume God has forgotten them. But what if that's not true? Think about a seed. The day it's planted, can you see the roots? No. Can you see the growth? No. Can you see the progress? No. Yet something incredible is happening underground. The roots are growing. Strength is developing. Life is forming. The seed isn't dead. It's preparing. And maybe that's exactly what God is doing in your life right now. You can't see it, but He's working. You can't feel it, but He's moving. You can't understand it, but He's preparing something. Why God doesn't always answer immediately. Let me ask you a question. What if God answered every prayer instantly? Every request, every desire, every dream. The moment you asked, would you really be ready? Think about that. Would you be ready emotionally, mentally, spiritually? Sometimes we're asking God for things that we're not prepared to handle yet. We want the blessing, but not the preparation. We want the promise, but not the process. We want the miracle, but not the growth. And that's where many people struggle, because God is more interested in who you're becoming than what you're receiving. Read that again in your heart. God cares about your character, not just your comfort, because blessings can change your circumstances, but character changes your life. God sees what you don't imagine driving down a road. You can only see a few hundred feet ahead. That's it. But imagine someone looking from an airplane. They can see miles ahead. Turns, traffic, danger, everything. Who has the better perspective? The person on the road or the person above it? Exactly. And that's how it is with God. You see today, God sees tomorrow. You see the problem, God sees the purpose. You see the delay, God sees the destination. You see the pain, God sees the promise. And because He sees more than you, He often makes decisions you don't understand, not because He's cruel, but because He loves you. Closed doors aren't always bad. Have you ever been upset about a closed door? A relationship that ended? A job you didn't get? An opportunity that disappeared? At the time, it felt terrible, it felt unfair, it felt painful, but years later, you looked back and said, "Thank God that didn't happen." Why? Because later you saw what God saw all along. You realized that closed door protected you, that rejection protected you, that delay protected you. Sometimes God's greatest blessings come disguised as disappointments, and that's hard to understand in the moment. But it's often true. God is working in secret. Here's something powerful. God does some of His greatest work in secret, not in public, not where everyone can see, but in hidden places. The roots of a tree grow underground, not above ground. A baby develops in the womb, not outside it. Gold is refined in fire, not in comfort. And faith grows during waiting seasons, not easy seasons. Could it be that this season you're trying so hard to escape is actually the season that's preparing you? Could it be that God is building strength inside you, wisdom inside you, faith inside you, trust inside you? Because the blessing you're praying for may require a stronger version of you. Cliffhanger. And here's where things get really interesting. Because sometimes God isn't only preparing you, He's preparing people around you too. People you've never met, opportunities you can't see, doors you don't know exist. What if your breakthrough is closer than you think? What if the thing you've been praying for is closer than it appears? What if God is already moving pieces into place? What if the answer is already on its way, but because you can't see it, you think nothing is happening? That's the difficult part about faith. Faith often works before evidence appears. Faith often believes before it sees. Faith often trusts before it understands. And that's why waiting becomes a test. Not a test of God's faithfulness, but a test of our trust. God may be preparing other people. Here's something most people never think about. What if the delay isn't about you? What if God is preparing someone else? A future friend, a future mentor, a future spouse, a future opportunity, a future connection, someone who will play a major role in your life, but they aren't ready yet. Think about that. God works in multiple lives at the same time. He's not only writing your story, He's writing thousands of stories. And sometimes those stories must meet at exactly the right moment. Not too early, not too late. The perfect time. The moment many people give up. Can I tell you something heartbreaking? Many people quit. Right before the breakthrough. They stop praying. Right before the answer. They stop believing. Right before the miracle. They stop trusting. Right before the door opens. Why? Because waiting becomes painful. Because disappointment becomes heavy. Because silence becomes exhausting. And eventually, they convince themselves that nothing will ever change. But what if they're wrong? What if they were only one step away? One prayer away? One day away? One breakthrough away? Never underestimate what God can do in a single moment. One moment can change everything. Remember Joseph. Think about Joseph. He had a dream from God, a powerful dream, a beautiful dream. But what happened next? Did everything go perfectly? No. He was betrayed, rejected, sold, forgotten, and imprisoned. Year after year, nothing seemed to make sense. Can you imagine how Joseph felt? Can you imagine the questions he asked? Can you imagine the nights he spent wondering if God had forgotten him? Yet God hadn't forgotten. Not for 1 second. God was preparing him. The palace required preparation. The purpose required preparation. The blessing required preparation. And when the time finally came, everything changed in a single season. Maybe you're in your preparation season. What if that's where you are right now? Not abandoned, prepared, not rejected, prepared, not forgotten, prepared, not delayed without purpose, prepared. Because God sees something in your future. That requires growth today. And maybe that's why the process feels difficult. Because growth is uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. Preparation is uncomfortable. But it's necessary. Don't waste this season. If you're waiting, don't waste the waiting. Grow during it. Learn during it. Pray during it. Develop during it. Become stronger during it. Because one day, you'll need the lessons you're learning right now. One day, you'll understand why this season mattered. One day, you'll realize that the waiting wasn't empty. It was building something inside you. The enemy wants you to quit. Have you noticed something? Whenever you're close to something important, the pressure often increases. The doubts become louder. The fear becomes stronger. The discouragement becomes heavier. Why? Because quitting is always easier than continuing. And the enemy knows that. He wants you to believe it's over. Nothing will change. God isn't listening. Just give up. But don't believe those lies. Because God's silence is not his absence. And your struggle is not your ending. One day you will understand. There will come a day when you look back and suddenly everything makes sense. The delay makes sense. The rejection makes sense. The closed door makes sense. The waiting makes sense. You'll see connections you couldn't see before. You'll understand things you couldn't understand before. And you'll realize God was guiding you the entire time, even when you couldn't feel it, even when you couldn't see it, even when you doubted it. Final message. So if you're tired today, keep going. If you're discouraged today, keep going. If you're frustrated today, keep going. If you're questioning everything today, keep going. Because your story is not finished. God is not finished, and your breakthrough may be much closer than you think. Remember, God knows your name. God knows your pain. God knows your tears. God knows your prayers. Nothing has escaped his attention. Nothing. Not one prayer, not one tear, not one moment of faith. He sees it all, and he is still working. Final question. Before you leave, I want you to answer one question, and answer it honestly. What is the biggest thing you're trusting God for right now? A healing? A relationship? A breakthrough? A miracle? Write your answer in the comments. Let's encourage each other in faith. And if this message touched your heart, subscribe for more powerful spiritual motivation every week, because sometimes the message you need most arrives exactly when God knows you're ready to hear it. Until next time, Keep believing, keep praying, keep trusting, because God is still working, even in the silence.